All right, welcome back. I'm Jonathan Hill, and I'm going to have a lot of fun tonight. As you see clocked up here, I have Dyer's hilarious refutation article that he wrote back August of 2019 against me. Now, I've never talked about this article before. I never addressed it because it's a complete joke. And no one takes it seriously. But there are some particular statements in here that I wanted to discuss, considering some of the things that he has said recently. So I thought we'd go over that, and we'll look at some of his videos, we'll look at some of his tweets, we'll look at some quotes, and we're going to see if the people he cites actually agree with what he is saying. So we're going to come down here to this John of Damascus quote, and right before we jump into that, let's go right here first. This is J. Dyer. If we look at the ex fontibus translation, it becomes clearer as person is used and makes the meaning clear where the brackets give my interpretation. Okay, so here's the quote right here, and you can see the bracketed version. Now, those are J. Dyer's words, right? So he has inserted those words, the divine person of the word, into John of Damascus. So then, of course, right here, when he says St. John is in fact stating my view, well, you've inserted your view into his quote. So good job. But let's focus more on what is written here. St. John is in fact stating my view that the divine person of the Word became composite by being found in two natures, with no created human hypostasis, and in no sense possessing a human hypostasis, nor can he be referred to, in any sense, as a human person. And in fact, even here, when I say, if you deny he is a human person, you are a monophysite, he says that this is Nestorian. Okay, this is Nestorian lunacy to say that he is a human person. He actually also says that in this video here. Let's take a listen.
Direct perception of God. Now, that doesn't mean that creatures or creations are bad. It just simply means that now that Christ has become incarnate, it's not just a creature or a man that we experience, some human person. No, Christ is not a human person. He's only a divine person. That's Nestorianism to say that he's a human person.
Great. So he said very clearly, it's Nestorianism to say he is a human person. We never say he's a human person. Let's listen to this again one more time.
God. Now, that doesn't mean that creatures or creations are bad. It just simply means that now that Christ has become incarnate, it's not just a creature or a man that we experience, some human person. No, Christ is not a human person. He's only a divine person. That's Nestorianism to say that he's a human person.
Great. So this is from May 27th, 2018. Let's move on. This is from October 26th, 2019.
God acted in the world in various ways. God became present in the theophanies, but after the incarnation there's a new theandric activity, and that's because there's now a divino human person, right?
What?
And
Wait,
that humanity
what?
is
What? There's now a divino human person? Let's listen to this again.
Present in the theophanies, but after the incarnation there's a new theandric activity, and that's because there's now a divino human person, right? And that humanity is, I'm not saying there's a created hypostasis, there's not, but he is the God-man, right? He does possess a fully human nature. And so because he possesses a fully human nature and he moves and acts through both of these natures in his singular divine hypostasis, we can...
There, so he realized what he was saying, right? He realized that he said what we have all been saying, divine human hypostasis, and so he has to cope with this. Oh, no, it's still just a divine, it's still just only a divine hypostasis. Okay, that's from 2019. And then just about a week ago, he said this.
Glory, right? The only he, this is Cyril's argument if you read St. Cyril, the only he in all of these references is the second person of the Godhead. That's why Mary is Theotokos, because Jesus is a divine person. It's that simple. That's the whole argument of Ephesus. It's the whole argument of Cyril against Nestorius. And Cyril pulls from these texts right here to say...
Now, to pause, yes, obviously the Theotokos is the Theotokos because she gives birth to the God-man. She gives birth to God. Absolutely true. Let's keep going.
The Word, the second person of the Godhead, became flesh and dwelt among us. We beheld his glory, right? The only he, the only subject present for all of these instances and reference is the second person of the Godhead, the Son of God, the Logos. Jesus is not a human person. He's not a created human person. He's not a hybrid where you have a uncreated hypostasis and a created hypostasis. No, those are heresies, and they're rejected at the Fifth Council.
So look at that! Look at that smug look. I love this. He thinks he's so right. This is just classic. So very clearly says he's not human and he's not created. Great. So let's jump over to some tweets that he's made. Here is a tweet on December 24th, 2020. We are on safe grounds following Meyendorff, Frolofsky, Staniloae, Larche, Losky, etc. And again, on May 22nd, 2020, there are no Dyerites. I just repeat what Losky, Larche, Staniloae, Frolofsky, Mansuritis, etc. I just repeat what they say. Okay. Is that true? Do you just repeat what these people say? Do you even know what Staniloae says about Christology? Let's find out. Okay. Let's go to Fr Dumitru Staniloae's Orthodox Dogmatic Theology, Volume 3. The ecumenical councils captured in a concise formulation the evangelical and dynamic manifestation of Christ's divine human person. Page 25. It is toward this horizon that every human being tends and, in a certain way, partakes of through his relationship with the incarnate Logos. In Christ, this horizon is opened for the human nature, not through the relationship with the Logos as a relationship with another person, but in the unity of the divine human person, of which the human nature is also a part, page 36. Remember, this is Father Staniloae. The glory we see is the same with the irradiation of this sweet fragrance, but at the same time is the irradiation of the unique divine human person for whom the body is no barrier, page 145. And again, the words that Christ communicates represent a direct radiation of his person as their unique, as their source, as well as his person's self-explanation. This means that he as person is the Word as divine hypostasis, who also became a human hypostasis, page 98. Here is in the original Romanian, divine hypostasis, divine human, right there. Here is more Staniloae. We will come, let's start right here. Here is the Romanian, and then here's the English. By making a hypostatic center of it coincide with the hypocritical center of divinity, the work of human nature is placed within his person on the line of manifestation of the fullest intimacy with God and intentions after communion with fellow men. The divine human hypostasis does not direct the work of human nature as it should direct any hypostasis in perfect communion with God and with his fellow men. The freedom of human nature in Jesus Christ is not restricted by anything, but agrees with all its leadership through the divine human hypostasis. As a divine human hypostasis, Jesus experiences at every step and his freedom as a man, the freedom of the human nature he represents. Again, this is Father Staniloae. This is who you say you quote. You quote all the time. Let's go to some other tweets. This happened on Christmas Eve, Western Christmas, December 24th. Here this person is in a debate over theandric hypostasis with J. Dyer. So you deny calling the hypostasis theandric. Correct. You're a heretic. You said it right here. You deny, you reject the anthropic language. No, I didn't. I mean, this is. I didn't say that. That's the perfect screenshot right there. Let's follow some other quotes. Let's jump to John of Damascus. So the Logos became flesh, not changing the nature nor only seeming to appear in the economy, but being one hypostasis of the hypostases of divinity, because he's one of the three hypostases, also became one hypostasis of the hypostases of humanity. So he is a human hypostasis among the hypostasis of humanity. Thanks, St. John. And here we have more quotes from Father Dumitru Staniloae. Their system, however, is not formed of abstract principles. It is the living unity of Christ, the person in whom there is united and who himself unites the divinity and creation. Moreover, Christ, the theandric person. I wonder. Theandric hypostasis, theandric person. And Jay says you're a heretic. I wonder if you'd call Father Staniloae a heretic. Don't you just quote him? Don't you just say what Staniloae says? It gets better. All things are presented in their relation to God. The Orthodox Church has special services for the blessings of wells, fields, yards, houses, and animals. The Eucharistic bread casts an aura of holiness over all bread. Moreover, the priests receive a consecration as ministers of the sanctification of all, as active points through whom all have occasion to enter into sanctifying communion with Christ, the divine human person, as the focal point of pure relations among all men. Again, more Fr Staniloae. I'll jump down towards the bottom. Right here. This is why the divine hypostasis of the eternal perfect fidelity has become also the human the hypostasis of humanity, that is to say, the human hypostasis of the same fidelity. And finally, to cap it off, I'll read this whole quote. Again, Fr Dumitru Staniloae. The person of Christ is present in the works of salvation, and they cannot belong to someone else. The person is present in these works because he cannot remain without being active in these works, without realizing himself through them as man. If on the plane of the ephemeral human existence only the relationship with another person can offer a certain warmth in life, a certain sense and reason for living, the eternal life as well as its meaning and whole reason cannot come but from the divine person who entered into direct relationship with us through the fact that he became a human person. Became a human person. But J. Dyer says, we never say in any sense that he's a human person. He says here, let's remember. Let's double check.
Now, that doesn't mean that creatures or creations are bad. It just simply means that now that Christ has become incarnate, it's not just a creature or a man that we experience, some human person. No, Christ is not a human person. He's only a divine person. That's Nestorianism to say that he's a human person.
So I guess Father Dumitru Staniloae is a Nestorian. And you say all you do is quote him? All you do is quote Staniloae and these others? I mean, come on. This is obviously unserious. He obviously has not read Orthodox Dogmatic Theology, Volume 3. He might have read cursory notes or maybe Volume 1. Clearly has not read Volume 3. And again, I love that smug look. He thinks he's so right, and he's just a charlatan, total hack.
Present for all of these instances and reference is the second person of the Godhead, the Son of God, the Logos.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Jesus is not a human person. He's not a created human person. He's not a hybrid.
So he's not a human person. Jesus is not a human person. Staniloae became a human person. The hypostasis of humanity. That is to say, the human hypostasis. Sanctifying communion with Christ, the divine human person. Christ, the theandric person. The divine human hypostasis. As a divine human hypostasis. Leadership through the divine human hypostasis. J. You don't just quote Staniloae. You just make it up as you go along. You just pick and choose what you want. This is unserious scholarship. This is obviously unserious. And this is why I never replied to this before, because this is just a huge joke. He even quotes me saying very clearly, I want to also add that I do not profess a second hypostasis in or of the God-man. Thank you. I cannot be a Nestorian. There's only one hypostasis. It's divine and human. As Staniloae is clearly saying, theandric there, divine human person, the human hypostasis, became a human person. Just very, very, very clear. Very, very clear. So, anyway, I had a lot of fun making this. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Learn from the fathers. Read the fathers. Learn from people who study at our seminaries. Learn from the people who teach at our seminaries. Not grifters on YouTube. So, he hasn't read the things that he says he has. Just totally fraudulent, completely fraudulent. Faux scholarship going on over here. Anyway, a lot of fun making this video. God bless.